Just a quick one before we dive in. I've just opened up 2 brand new ways to work with me. If you're an established beauty professional who's ready to increase your revenue, either in your clinic or by moving into the online mentoring and educational space, you can join me for a 2-month container where we build and validate your first online offer or your next big move. Or if you're ready to go all in, there is a 7-month private mentorship where we build, launch and scale your new revenue stream together. If you're not sure which one's right for you, I'm offering a handful of free business clarity calls, quick and powerful to map out your fastest path and to see which container fits best. Just DM me the word revenue on Instagram or check the link in the show notes and email me. Let's get into the episode.
Welcome to the Beauty Build podcast with me, Zara King. As a coach for beauty pros, it is my mission to help you earn more, work less, and create an unstoppable mindset. This is the show where we explore all of that. So whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting your beauty business, this podcast is for you. So sit back, relax, and join us on the journey. And for more, get yourself inside my private community, The Beauty Build on Facebook. Hello, you gorgeous beauty pro you, and welcome back to another episode. Thank you so much for being here. If you like today's episode, please take a screenshot, pop it on your stories and tag me. I really love to see who's listening and I really love to hear your feedback. Today's episode, I really wanted to talk about having the hard conversations because I feel like we're in that situation all the time as beauty business owners where we have to have these awkward conversations with clients and it feels so much harder sometimes than it needs to. And then beauty business owners sometimes just sit on this for such a long time before they have a conversation with a client that they need to have, or they don't start as they mean to go on and they make a rod for their own back and they don't love their business because of this type of thing, because they're not willing to have those difficult, icky, hard to have conversations because they just don't have the confidence around it. I hear it all too often, and in all honesty with you as well, I've been there. I've done that, because if you don't know me, if you're just tuning into this podcast and you're stepping into my world for the first time, I have been a business owner in the beauty industry for 12 years. And I started off mobile. I was 4 years mobile, and then I went into salon for 2 years, and then I went home-based. And I'll admit to you, for the first 4 years of my business, I had zero awkward conversations, really. I was very confident when it came to my clients and the skill and doing the do and performing treatments. Over time, that got really, really good. But the awkward conversations and having some sort of confidence when it came to enforcing things with clients or telling them I needed that extra little bit of respect in some areas, or something went awry and I needed to claw something back or whatever. Those awkward conversations are really difficult to have. And it was all because I didn't have any of that kind of training when I learned how to do beauty. I was just literally taught how to do the treatments that I was trained in. I was never taught anything about the business side of things. I was never taught about having conversations with people. And to be honest with you, I was really lucky because I was running my beauty business alongside a full-time sales career. So over time, where I'd been in sales for such a long time, talking to people, selling to people, and had confidence in that arena, in those things, it all kind of transferred over to how I ran my business in the long run. And at first I didn't really care, let's be honest. I didn't really care too much because I was doing it as something on the side. And that's how my mind was wired. It was something on the side. It wasn't a full-time thing for me. And with that being said, actually, I just want to put a little thing out there to all of the people that are doing it as something on the side. We are part of the problem. The people that start off in this industry as doing this as something on the side, as some sort of part-time hobby even, or whatever, how small, we are part of the problem. And that's the massive part of the problem that the industry sees today, because we have this huge, vast industry where there are people that do this and make so much money. There are people that do this and make barely any money. There's a whole huge, broad spectrum to the people doing this. And they can be right next door to us if we want to be building this huge business with beauty. And we think that we've got something for everyone and we're looking for clients. But then there's someone next door to us doing it as a hobby or something on the side. Their outgoings are probably far less than ours, and they're doing it cheap. And things, and they're not maybe enforcing policies policies and things which you're going to get into today, but they're not having hard conversations with people either, because they're not treating their business like a business. So we are part of the problem. So I was part of the problem back then, and I'll hands up admit that, but I'm doing my bit now, right? To change the industry and to change the perspective. But the thing is as well, it wasn't just me. It was like, I wasn't taught. I was always sort of drilled into that if you went into beauty, you weren't very clever, right? You didn't have the credentials to go on to do something else. And honestly, that is what I was taught. And the reason for that was, long story short, I was bullied in school. The girls that bullied me went off to do that, and I was thinking, and my parents said to me, oh, that's all they can do. And that was a way of them sort of like making me feel better, because I had different grades, I was going off and doing different things, and they made me feel like that wasn't a serious career path. And not only them, there were other people too, but that's just how it was. And I think some people still think that still to this day, that doing beauty isn't a serious career path. And it is, guys. It really, really is. You can earn really greatly in this industry, and there's so much living proof of it out there. You just have to surround yourself with it. But that was a huge part of the problem when I'd started my mobile beauty business. I wasn't in the right headspace to be having these really hard conversations that felt quite hard and felt quite icky at the time. And so there are probably so many of you out there that are still feeling like that as well. And also what it does is it makes the client's perception of the industry completely, loose and fluid and like airy-fairy, and like, oh, we can do this, we can do that, and they can bend over backwards for us, and well, you're just a beauty therapist, or you're just this, or you're just a nail tech, or you just do lashes, or so their perception of the industry sometimes doesn't lead to that highest level of respect for you, unfortunately. And it's actually your responsibility to gain that level of respect and to demand it, in fact, right? I remember when I went into salon, and that was probably the biggest start for me of this kind of difficult conversations to have, because I'd upped my prices, everything was changing, and it was the first time that I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to have these awkward conversations and I'm probably going to lose some clients, and it was mainly at that point because my prices had gone up, because that's the biggest, scariest thing for us all, isn't it, in this industry? But actually having some of those conversations probably taught me so many lessons about the value perception that people have of the industry, and how some people's perception is way different. Not everyone is the same. They don't all think the same. And sometimes we can tar everyone with the same brush and think, oh, if I do this, they're going to do that. But actually, it's not the case. There are different people out there that will completely respect you, and then there are going to be some that won't. And whether that's that because your prices are going up and you're having a conversation about that, or whether it's that you're having a conversation about working hours or boundaries or policies or anything else, any sort of client behaviour in the salon or the clinic, or if you're mobile, whatever, lateness as well, we can get into all that kind of thing. So at the end of the day, your beauty business is a database full of happy returning clients. That is exactly what it is. If you were to sell your business, that is essentially what you would be selling, right? A database full of happy returning clients that love what you have to offer. That is the asset that you hold. So yes, there is a thing here where we think, well, we need to please these clients because we want happy clients. That's the first thing. And we need to also please them because we want them to keep coming back. And that's when what happens is we fall into this people-pleasing mode, which I talk about all the time because we're in the personal care industry. And so we fall into this people-pleasing mode where we start bending over backwards for people, even when they're pushing our boundaries, even when they're annoying us and overstepping lines all sorts of times. And we start doing things like that. And actually, all we're doing is we're upsetting ourselves, and we're making a rod for our own back, and we're ruining our business, because those clients will eventually turn on us if they're not the type of clients that will respect our business when it's needed most. And the reason that I really wanted to talk about this topic today is because I keep seeing, and recently I've seen one in particular, I look all the time in my group and in other people's groups and things, and just on social media where people are talking about their clients. And I keep seeing at the moment that, they put in this thread, they say that they need to have some advice from different beauty pros out there. And it's all because there's been a conversation with a client that went a little bit sour. And it always seems to be the case that they say in their sort of backstory, I've looked after this client for the last however many years. We've had a couple of issues every now and then, but as a loyal client, I've tend to sort of let her off or him off. And this is what's happened now, and I've tried to enforce some sort of policy, or I've said, oh, well, I can't do that, or you're going to have this, or I'm going to have to stop doing that for you because actually it's out of my hours, or this is what's going to happen because you've been late 3 times, or whatever that case is, and then the client's turned on them. And the thing is with this, right, and I'd love for you to reach out for me if you have any opinions on this and want to have a chat about it, or actually even if you're in this position yourself, because it's a really sticky one for you to feel good about. I know it is because it feels horrible. But the thing is, actually, you have had ample chance to have this conversation. Normally 99% of the time when I'm seeing things like this, the beauty therapist has actually had so many opportunities to have this conversation before now, and so you would have known that client wasn't going to respect you way back, right? So we've wasted so much time, and now that client's going to drop off because they're unhappy with the fact that you've tried to enforce something, and you don't want them back anyway, really, because why are you going to, once a client's turned on you, why should you want them back anyway? They're not your kind of person if they're going to turn on you in a message and hide behind their screens. And that's another note, right? It's another side note. It's worse in this day and age of social media and of text messaging and hiding behind our phones all the time, every single day. It is worse because a client will probably say more to you on a text message than they would have to me face to face when I was mobile. Right? And obviously, of course, I had mobile phones and things, but what I mean is when you turn up at the house and you say something, it's a bit different. But a lot of the time now, people will just text you all the time, even then, I suppose. But the thing I'm trying to say is you've had a responsibility here, and because you've sat on something, right, and I see it all the time, like, well, she was a loyal client, so I let her off, or she comes X, Y, and Z, and so does her mum and her friend and her auntie, and so, or I knew her from school, so I didn't want to do this. Now, you might think that you're letting them off when they've been late, or they've done a no-show, or they've cancelled last minute and you haven't charged them. Whatever it is that the awkward conversation that you've avoided having, you might think you were doing that because you wanted to let them off and it was a favour to them. Actually, in my opinion, what you're doing here is you're actually letting yourself off of having that awkward conversation. And that might be a difficult pill to swallow, but I really do truly believe that deep down somewhere in you, it's because you didn't want to have that conversation. And you really do need to, because if you think about it, those kind of scenarios that I'm seeing a hell of a lot of at the moment, that kind of thing wouldn't be happening in that person's business had they just started from the get-go with the way they wanted to run their business, right? People pleasing is not a good way to run a business, even in the personal care industry. We really do need happy returning clients, yes. And there are other ways of making sure that our clients are happy and that they return. That is a completely possible thing, with still upholding respect levels, boundary levels, policies, and all the rest of it, and having these hard conversations, because people that respect a business, they will also respect anything that, works professionally. So all it is really and truly is for you to start looking at that business as a professional entity. It's a professional environment for that person to step into and feel amazing after they've had their treatment. But nuts and bolts of it is, this is a business. It's not personal. So we need to make sure that we're treating it like a business and that we're having those conversations straight up front. Now, I know that there are many, many challenges. So these kind of conversations for you are going to be in the form of things like I've touched on, when somebody's late a lot of times, or when they're late the first time, should I say, when they have a no-show, when they decide to not turn up to an appointment, when they decide to cancel an appointment and it's within, a day or a few hours, or if it's even 2 days before and you can't feel it, right? Or if they're just messing around and rescheduling all the time. There's so many different conversations. Your prices might go up, or a service might come off your menu, or you might change your hours, or the client might bring up certain topics in your presence that you really don't want to chat about. I've seen before a lot of clients, a lot of therapists have said things in the past where they don't know how to shut off a conversation because it's turning sour, it's getting a bit too personal, or maybe they text you out of hours all the time. I've had that, and people try to get friendly and things, and maybe you don't want to have that friendship. Maybe you do want things to be quite strictly professional, but you can't uphold that level of difficult conversation because it's hard to have. So it's all of these scenarios, whether you're mobile, whether you're in salon, whether you're home-based, whether you rent a space, it doesn't matter where you are. these kind of things, eventually you'll get to your threshold with a certain thing and you'll want to have this difficult conversation. There's so many of these challenges that we face in the beauty industry, and I know there are so many, and they're going to be super unique to you. But you either do these things straight away. So if you're fresh out of college and you're listening to this and you're going to be starting your beauty business soon, or you've just started, my advice to you is to seriously make a note of how you want your business to run when it comes to all of these common challenges, right? I'm throwing them out there, kind of reeling them all off, because there are so many, but those are the biggest ones. Okay. And you need to think, how do I want my business to run? What do I want it to look like in an ideal world? How will I liaise with clients in an ideal world when they are booking, when they come to see me? How will things go? What will their behavior be like towards the business? How will they treat their appointments? How will they treat me? How will they speak to me? Right? You need to think about how in an ideal world you would be treating your business, and how everything would be running, and how the interactions with clients and everything would be running. And this also goes hand in hand with how you would be having these conversations sometimes with people around you. So it could be staff, or it could be family members, or it could be partners, right? Personal partners, business partners, it could be whatever. But think about how, if any of those type of things will affect it as well. Think about that as well. Because for me personally, having awkward conversations with my partner is one of the biggest things in the world. It's one of the most difficult conversations for me to have, and he won't listen to this, but if he did, he'd probably laugh. But you will know personally who you need to have these hard conversations with, and I urge you to think about it all up front and actually set a date and be like, I'm going to have that conversation at this point, or before this point, or by this point. I'm going to have had that conversation because this is what it's going to do for me. This is what it's going to do for them. This is how it's going to serve the business. Think of all the pros of having these conversations and gear yourself up to actually handle these conversations when you need to. Now, if you're not brand new, if you're not just starting your beauty business, if you're not just stepping out of college, what you need to do is you need to unpick everything, right? You need to think about how your business actually is running, where you're getting annoyed with things, and then where you need to be having these conversations and who with. You need to think, right, well, who is this affecting? Who is the conversation need to be had with? And you need to gear yourself around that. So you need to think about the pros of having this conversation. You can gear yourself up for the cons as well if you want to be prepared. But I think the biggest thing here is to actually give yourself some confidence, write out a few things, a different list of how it affects you, how it affects them, and then a third list of how it serves the business. Those are the type of things you need to be doing to get yourself ready. What are the points that you want to make, and what is it that you gain by making those points? What is the purpose of all of this? Because I'm pretty sure you're not having awkward conversations with people just to be awkward or horrible. You're a good person and you want to be a good business owner and you want to be professional. So I'm sure there are so many positives that you can draw from these experiences of these relationships that you have with clients, with people around you, where you need to be having these awkward conversations. But I urge you to do these things, especially if you're just starting out, right? I don't know if you can tell, but when I record in this big podcast, I have this energy and I get the tingles because I just want to pick everyone up in the beauty industry and shake everybody and get everybody to lift up together and make this industry something amazing. I mean, it is, but it could be even more amazing in places. And so I just want you all to think, yes, I can do this. And when everybody does do this, and it makes a bigger movement, and in the last few years I have seen a lot of movement in the industry. I would say since 2020 the industry has been massively changing, and there's been a movement and people are joining in, and it's all uplifting, and it's really, really, really good to see. But you have to remember as well that some people still don't have a perception of the industry that is, up there with those highest levels of respect. So what you're doing by having these conversations from the get-go, or from unpicking, if you've been at it for a while and you know that you need to unpick some things, unpick the icks, right? Then you know that what you're doing is such a good cause, right? You're doing this for such a good thing, to uplift the whole industry. You're going to help people band together and actually really respect the industry as a whole. Because those people with a different perception, they are going to be shifted eventually. If all of the people that listen to this podcast even did this, then that would be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that actually come together and lift up the industry, just by having these awkward conversations with clients and changing people's perceptions as the time goes on. And that would be a really, really, really good thing, because we want people to have a massive professional, respectful vision and, idea of what the beauty industry stands for. That is what we want. We want beauty therapists, nail techs, lash techs, estheticians, everyone, semi-permanent makeup artists, all of you. We want you all to be super, super respected so that we can go out there and actually earn a decent living from doing this, and so that we can still live really cool lives and enjoy ourselves as well, and have family time and friend time, and stop being that industry that just is putting ourselves last because we put everyone else first. So you've got to get out there and do it, and I think it's super important. So another thing to note on this is that it's really important for you to be thinking about personal boundaries. I have touched on this, but I just want to touch on it a little bit more, is the fact that you might have to really reevaluate personal boundaries with people like friends, family and partners when it comes to making changes in your business. It might affect other things and it can have a massive knock-on effect, and it's something that's really strongly in me, if you like, because I have to do that a lot with the fact that me and my partner, we are, from two different cultures. We have that a lot. So we have to have hard conversations all the time about what we want to do as a family, what I want, what he wants, all the rest of it. I'm not going to go into too much depth, but you get the picture. We have to have those conversations as well. So it's really important because I find myself sometimes really, really torn. So if you want to have a chat about this, get into my DMs because I'm open to it. But really think about the personal side of things as well. But either way, do it with confidence. Be really firm in what you want, and those lists that I've mentioned about how it serves you, how it serves them, and how it serves the business ultimately, and what that does for you. Be really firm and clear on those things so that then when you do have awkward conversations, you understand why. That's the biggest thing, that you understand why, so that you hold firm and you stay strong. And the other thing is, right, when you're doing things like this, whether it's, with clients or whatever, sometimes the emotional connections to clients and the emotional connections just to our business in general and things can actually be so strong that we find it even harder than others. And my advice to you here is this: if you have to, blame it on the system. Or blame it on something else. When you're having a conversation with a client, it might be that you are trying to handle a difficult conversation because of pricing. Now, one of the ways that I teach my one-to-one clients to do this, obviously I go through all of their pricing methods with them properly. I make sure that all of their services are in profit so that they fully understand why they're doing this in their business, and we get right down into the nitty-gritty. But one of the ways on the surface level that I say to them, like, just remove yourself from the outcomes and detach yourself from the emotions, is to just say that when, your accountant last spoke to you and looked at your profit, he gave you a slap on the wrist, or she gave you a slap on the wrist and said, look, the business needs to be better. Your prices need to increase, right? And that way you can remove yourself. And the other thing here as well, maybe it's lateness policies, maybe it's that you don't want to enforce fees. That's one of the biggest ones, and that's one of the ones where I see this client has turned on me because I've tried to enforce a fee. I've looked after him or her for 6 years. I've done her eyelashes for that long, and she's had facials, and she's had nails, and she's had a bit of waxing, and her mum comes and her auntie comes, right? She's always late, but I let her off. And now this one time I enforced a fee, and she's turned on me and said, I can't believe you treated me that way. I'm going to be going elsewhere, right? So, hello, first of all, we don't want that client in our business anyway. So we really shouldn't have been servicing them anyway. And if we knew their true colours from the beginning, they probably wouldn't have been our client. But also, second of all, let's blame it on the system here and say, listen, the system will charge you. Okay, so this is another thing. If you don't have systems in place and things like that, think about it. Think about treating your business like a business and having booking systems that take fees, that take deposits, that take cancellation fees and things like that, and hold card details, because it's so worth it. And the more, like I said before, the more people in the industry that do things like this and set these boundaries and set these policies, the more people that will be getting used to beauty businesses doing that. So they can't really say, well, I'll go elsewhere, because the majority of people will be doing this. And in some places, the majority are doing this. Every one-to-one client that I work with, if they're not doing that in their business, by the time they finish their program with me, they're doing that. They're having systems, they're taking deposits, they are taking card payments, they are relying on booking systems to send out a lot of automated emails and text messages and things, so that it frees up a lot of their time as well. Okay, so not only are you doing yourself a service by the fact that you're upholding boundaries and policies and you're actually having these difficult conversations, and you're alleviating some of that stress as well, actually, by letting the system do things. But again, you're also freeing up your time, and that's leverage, right? That is what we want. And let me tell you, actually, there was once a time, this is way back when I was mobile, and there was a client of mine who was always regular, really good. In fact, I still see her now. She referred her sister to me, or someone, I can't remember who it was exactly. And she would book in, and then she would cancel on the day. And I kid you not, this happened for nearly 2 years, and I still hadn't met her. And she'd booked in all the time for about 2 years, and I hadn't met her. And I was like, this is getting a bit ridiculous now. So there was a time, of course, where I had to have this awkward conversation. And it wasn't because I was treating my business like a business, and I was, it was literally just because she had peed me off so much that I was like, listen, I've never met you, and you've done this so many times, and I could always feel the slot because I was always super busy. And I just had to say something to her. And actually, do you know what? She didn't turn on me. She was actually really nice about it. But I just had to remain firm and say, I cannot book you in. Unless you want an appointment on the day, then you text me on the day or call me on the day, then we can get that in. I didn't have systems at this point. But she was fine about it, and we just came up with a method where it was a case of, well, if you want it, you can get in on the day, but I'm not going to book anything in advance for you because I will fill your slot probably. And so if I had her book in on the day and I had a slot available, fine, then I would go and see her. But listen, I still had never met her, right? And that just goes to show, first of all, I was dreading that conversation for nearly 2 years. But second of all, things can really creep up on us, and it gets to that point, and you think, how on earth did I even let it get to this point? And thirdly, she was absolutely fine. Now, the majority of your clients will probably be absolutely fine with you having a hard conversation with them, because 9 times out of 10, we do attract people similar to us. We do, if we know anything about marketing, we are probably doing a good job. Now, it's when you're not doing a good job, or when you're super, super cheap, or when you are acting like in your marketing, like you have something for everyone, you've always got an offer on, people are coming and going all the time, and very sort of willy-nilly, and people cancel all the time and reschedule all the time on you. If that's your business, you're probably going to have a harder time having these conversations. But if you've been at this a while and you like most of your clients, 9 times out of 10 they're going to be fine. And if anyone does turn on you, like the examples that I've mentioned today, where people have turned, and I've seen a lot of it on social media lately, then you know what, they just weren't for you in the first place. But you need to have confidence around this, and you need to start doing it now. So the thing is with this, the confidence isn't just going to happen overnight, because you know now that you can write yourself a list to say, well, this is why I'm doing it, this is how it serves me and them, and this is how it serves the business. That's not just going to give you confidence. Listening to this podcast isn't just going to give you confidence. You have to do the thing, right? You have to have a conversation whilst you feel a little bit scared about it. So I challenge you to actually have a hard conversation this week with a client, because I bet your bottom dollar you have somebody to have a hard conversation with. It might be the smallest thing, but it will give you confidence, right? And even if it's not with a client, maybe it's with your partner, maybe it's with a friend, maybe it's with a family member. There will be somebody in your life right now, or in your business, that you could have a hard conversation with. And I'm challenging you to have that conversation by the end of the week, right? I think that when you do that with a little bit of fear involved, when you can feel it inside that it feels a bit hard, and you do it and nothing bad happens, and you deal with it, right? Or if something happens and they say something, think of the positives that you've learned from it, right? Because at the end of the day, we either win and we get what we want, or we grow and we learn. That will instill more confidence in you, because it's doing the thing anyway with the fear involved, and realizing that you're not going to actually have anything crazily bad happen. You may have something come back that you don't necessarily enjoy, but discomfort is okay. Okay, you need to be happy with that. You need to be comfortable with that, and you need to realize that that can turn into a smile, because you're like, oh, I've grown here. I've learned something here. I actually smile as I think about things like this. I know I'm crazy. I know I'm a bit strange. But you should be doing this, and then you practice, right? So if you have to keep practicing with people around you, keep doing that. And then you practice on your clients, and then you get to a point where these things are actually just natural. And when you're running your business like a business anyway, and when you're having these hard conversations all the time and upfront, and you're using systems, and you're removing yourself from the emotion, because this is business, this is not personal. Trust me, this becomes so easy, right? And the thing is as well, it starts with doing all of this up front with clients. Okay, so things like systems and things that I've touched on are so key, because if you have a client come into your world from the get-go, they're new to you and they know that you take a deposit and they know that you have policies and they know that you have a T's and C's document that they need to tick a box to say that they've read, and they know these things, they're going to be like, yeah, I'm going to tick that box and I'm going to come to you and I can't wait. Or they're just not going to come and they're going to be like, oh, that isn't for me. Right? So what actually happens is, and what I realized in my business was, it weeds out all of the nonsense. So you actually don't have to have as many hard conversations, if any. And it's so, and I know that sounds like a massive thing, like, oh, you might not have any, but I kid you not, I literally had 0 no-shows. When I started treating my business like a business and I had policies in place and everything, I had no no-shows. I never had to have quibbles about deposits. I never had things like that. I never had like really late cancellations where I had quibbles and arguments or any confrontation about things. I just didn't get it because I had everything in place up front to make sure I wasn't getting it. Those hard conversations were being covered, right? So I urge you to really take on board whatever part of this episode resonates with you and your business and where it's at right now, and make those changes, have those hard conversations, get it done. Get it done, and then practice if you need to, and keep going until it feels like it's natural, and keep going until it's like, this is just the way the business runs. It's water off a duck's back and it just goes like this, and we love it. And the clients that find us, they vibe with us, like they get it, because we're attracting the right clients. And this is also where it all begins. So if you need more help with attracting the right ideal clients to your business, then I do have a link in the description of this episode to thebeautybuild.com, which is currently where you can find my 5 Ideal Clients in 5 Weeks program for 90% off. So I don't know how long that will be around. Go and get it while you can. It is very, very valuable for you and your business to attract those clients to your business, to know how to do that through social media. And I'm talking organically, not paying for ads, not worrying that you're really expensive and that people are going to tell you you're too expensive. You want those clients that keep coming back over and over again and that want to book in with you straight away because they get it. And that is what that course teaches. That is what my clients see. My clients see that, they get 12 new clients. They see that, they get fully booked and they quit their day jobs. Right? So have a look at that description if you need help in attracting the right people to your business from the initial get-go, right? That is how you want to be. So if your books aren't full and you still need new clients, have a look at the beautybuild.com, and that is where you can find all of the information on that course. But that is really what it's about. It's about having clients in your business, happy returning clients. That is what your business is. It's a database of happy returning clients that absolutely love you, that want to stick with you, that respect you, and that won't mind when you have to have an awkward conversation. Maybe you've changed your hours, maybe you're upping your prices, but if you can do all of the little bits that we've talked about today, then when you come to up prices later on down the line, guess what? It's no big deal. And that's what I want for all of you. I want you to all be in a position where you can love your businesses, where your clients love it too, and where you can have these conversations over and over again, because there are going to be more and more growth phases in your business, right? So go out there, get it, practice, and I challenge you to have those hard conversations. If you need my help, grab that course. If you want to reach out to me in the DMs, do that. And please do let me know if there's any other things that you want to hear from me on this podcast. I look forward to hearing you, but for now, I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and gained valuable insights that will help you in your beauty business and life. If you did, please take a screenshot and tag me in your stories. If you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to me on any of my socials. The links are always in the descriptions. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us improve and bring you more and more great content. Until next time, keep building that business.